Is this thing on? So, on to the cosmological argument for the existence of God. For this particular one, there's variations, and one of them was actually proposed by a Muslim, but it is one of the more effective arguments for the existence of God. So, sort of the more Christian one was basically it's arguing that if there are a bunch of contingent things in the universe, if the universe is composed of a lot of contingent things, you have to have a reason for their existence, and you can't have an unlimited amount of contingent things. Therefore, eventually you'll have to have a singular explanation for all things, and that explanation could be God. And that's sort of the argument from contingency for the cosmological argument, where the existence of the universe, the existence of life, the existence of stars, constellations, it's a singular event, a singular uncaused system, a singular reason why those exist. And then the one from sort of the Islamic world, a Muslim who proposed this one, which is actually probably one of the stronger ones, is it argues that we cannot have an infinite past. The reason why we cannot have an infinite past is in order to get to the present, there has to be a whole bunch of elements of cause and effect, of something continually moving down, because if the past is infinite, we would never arrive at the present. The reason being, the causal chain would eventually, you would never continue to move along the causal chain, or basically stop the causal chain. So if you're placing yourself in a moment of time, there's a causal chain related to it. The past is not infinite. Thus, if the past is not infinite, it therefore must have a cause. Time has to have a cause. And the argument is God is the uncaused being. There has to be a start to everything. Basically, the universe was nothing, and then everything occurred all at once. So sort of the theists believe God created the universe, atheists believe nothing created the universe. And I'm borrowing from a funny comedian. That is the funniest answer. What what created the universe? Nothing. Yeah. It's the funniest answer, because basically you can ask an atheist, like, what happens when you die? You become nothing. You merge with your creator, is what they're saying. So at the end of the day, they're still sort of making the argument that whatever it was that created the constellations created the galaxies, created everything that exists, everything that will achieve life and consciousness. It will eventually reconnect to it, regardless of if it's God or if it's nothing. Because if you argue that people die and then they go into nothingness, then what you're saying is they're merging with the thing that created the universe, which is nothing. The fun logic of it. Regardless, the cosmological argument is not without its critics, particularly the contingency side. The thing is that you could say the universe itself resembles more of the sort of thing that is the explanation than a god. God also is considered to be conceived to be as contingent. You can conceive it existing and not existing at the same time. So fundamentally, there are critiques to the cosmological argument that doesn't provide theists absolute cover from critique, but it is one of the strongest for theists. What caused the universe? Sometimes people say the Big Bang, other scientific explanations. And the problem is that we'll never really truly know if there was a singular cause to existence. And it is worth noting. So I'm done sort of the key aspects of metaphysical worth talking about before I get into Christian ethics. And the first book I'm going to review is The Problem of Pain by C.S. Lewis. The second book I'm going to review is Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. And the third will be Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. These are just some general sort of Christian themed. One is a fictional book, and then the other two are sort of essays by C.S. Lewis around Christianity, around belief in God. And I'm tying it to ethics. I'm tying sort of a belief in God to ethics because it did have a great influence in shaping how people perceive the oughts of human behavior. Sort of my aggression series focused in on the ises of what causes human behavior, and there's competing theories as to what causes human behavior. But this ethical series talks about how humans ought to treat each other. And it's going to be framed in a Christian context just for sort of my own faith journey. But there are ethical practices people can adopt. That does not necessarily mean that they have to believe in a God in order to sort of argue in favor or against what ought people do and how ought people behave, and thoughts, how ought people think. I personally generally stay away from oughts. That's just my personal. The reason why I stay away from oughts is because you can still craft language that helps build people emotionally, that helps build people socially and intellectually, without saying such and such is evil, such and such is good. But they're worth examining. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And I will see you in the next one.